Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News Explosion.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Tim's News Explosion on this Monday, 8th of April, 2024. We are live on the Wilms Front YouTube channel, the Wilms Front Odyssey channel, and the Wilms Front Rumble channel. Hello to everyone in the chat. Peak Aussieman, Tricky Woo, Dawn Browning. Hi, lovelies. I'd share on Twitter, but I'm on the naughty step for a few more hours. Free speech, my tush. Yes, Dawn, you're not the only one to be censored on X, formerly known as Twitter. We'll certainly get to that. It is 9 p.m. here in Melbourne, Victoria. We are back to Australian Eastern Standard Time, which means we're in the same time zone now as Queensland on the East Coast, and Western Australia is only 2 hours behind us now. Back here in Melbourne, it's a city that is already terrorized by youth gangs in home invasions, carjackings, but if that wasn't bad enough, even more alarming now, there are sex creeps who are targeting little girls. This was reported on 7 News last week.
Detectives are looking for a suspected sex creep accused of filming a naked child. Emma O'Sullivan police say he took footage of the little girl as she showered.
Mitch, this disturbing incident happened on Williamstown Beach on January 31st. Police say a man held his mobile phone underneath a public shower cubicle to film a naked 5-year-old girl. The child's mother has confronted this man. He's then left the area along the Esplanade towards Victoria Street. Detectives have released images of the suspect they'd like to speak to. He's believed to be around 30 years old. On the day, he was wearing a black hoodie, grey track pants and slides. Mitch?
Emma O'Sullivan at Williamstown, thank you.
Didn't 7 News leave off some of the description of that man there? The man is perceived to be of Indian subcontinent appearance, approximately 30 years old, with medium build, black hair and olive skin. Now, this is both utterly disturbing and disgusting. And obviously the fact that this happened 2 months ago, over 2 months ago, he is still on the loose. Who knows if that's the first time this alleged sex creep has done this, filmed a child. And also, Hobson's Bay Council need to be held accountable. The fact that they designed a shower cubicle where it wasn't completely secure, fully enclosed, secure, that there was room for a sex creep to film somebody naked in the shower. That has to be answered as well. And the fact that he is still at large, and I mean, certainly that if hopefully the authorities get him, and who knows what else is allegedly on his devices. So that is really, really as I said, disgusting, disturbing. Imagine if that, those of you who are parents, imagine if that happened to your daughter. But if that wasn't creepy enough, then today news broke that there was the attempted abducting of an 11-year-old primary school girl in Doncaster. This was all over the mainstream media tonight, but this was 9 News Melbourne's probably the most thorough report.
An alleged child predator is on the loose, wanted for trying to kidnap a girl as she walked home from primary school in Doncaster East. The local dad who rescued the 11-year-old says he's now worried about his own children walking the streets. Eliza Rugg has this report.
An 11-year-old schoolgirl safe with a Good Samaritan and his daughter.
My phone died.
Oh, that's all right. It's really hard time to even imagine that, what could have happened.
Moments earlier, the girl had almost been kidnapped by the driver of this grey Audi.
A little girl should feel safe to walk home from school, and what he's actually done is actually horrible.
On Thursday, March 28, the last day of term 1, at 2:40 in the afternoon, the primary school student had been walking home along Landscape Drive in Doncaster East when she was targeted by this man driving the Audi.
A male has forcefully asked the female to get in the car.
The victim ran away and hid in a bush, but her ordeal wasn't over.
The vehicle has then done a U-turn, waited a little bit for her.
The man opened the car window and asked me to get in.
That's when Ryan Gambari stepped in. He was walking his own daughter home from school when the girl begged him for help.
When she approached me, she was really shaking. She couldn't talk. She couldn't even breathe.
Mr. Gambari comforted the girl and reunited her with her family. Her dad had been driving around looking for her.
They said thank you, and they said thank God you were here.
Police say the girl wasn't physically injured, but clearly traumatised.
She was terrified. She felt like she was going to be taken by this male.
And Eliza Rugg is in Doncaster East. Eliza, where was the suspect last seen?
Alicia, the man fled south here on Taurus Road in Doncaster East. That's the last known sighting of him, but police have provided us with a computer-generated image of the suspect. He is described as being Middle Eastern in appearance, with black hair, a black beard and a moustache as well. He was also wearing sunglasses with brown lenses and a grey T-shirt on that day. Now, on the afternoon of March 28, it would have been really busy. Lots of parents picking up their kids from schools around here in Doncaster East. That's who police want to check their dash cam footage to see if someone may have picked up on vision that grey Audi either before or after the attempted kidnapping. Alicia.
OK, Eliza, thank you.
Well, at least we had their 9 News state there on their report that the suspect was of Middle Eastern appearance, because if we're not going to release a proper description, next day are we going to say the suspect is of male appearance because we don't want to assume their gender, or are we just going to put out stick figures as composites? I mean, this is the absurdity of some of these reports at times. Now, obviously, I remember when I was a child, we were taught about stranger danger, because sadly gone are the days in Australia where little children could walk home from school or just go down to the park or the beach by themselves. Australia's innocence was lost when the Beaumont children disappeared Australia Day 1966 from Glenelg Beach. Their mother gave them some money for the day. They got on the bus to Glenelg Beach all on their own, and they didn't come back and have never been found. And Dawn Browning says, our Linda Hunter grew up in Doncaster. The fact that there is an attempted child abductor on the loose in Doncaster gives me flashbacks to probably Australia's most infamous child sex creep and murderer, Mr. Cruel, who raped and abducted 2 girls and then murdered a third, Carmen Chan. And obviously the fact that we did for many years, the crime rate was plummeting until very recently, and now we are seeing crime statistics go up again. Now, I know that there'll be people on social media say, "Oh, why are you racial profiling the suspects? Don't you know that the rescuer was a man of color as well, and white people abduct children?" And but it's certainly, I think, we've looked at the Victorian crime statistics by country of birth previously, and certainly there are certain countries that people are born in who are overrepresented in our local crime statistics. But according to our leaders, diversity is still our strength. Australia is the most successful multicultural democracy. This was Anthony Albanese yesterday in a Sikh turban, even though it was Sri Lankan New Year. The main two religious groups in Sri Lanka, there's the Sinhalese Buddhist majority, and then there's the Tamil Hindu minority. But it says here, this Herald Sun article, the Prime Minister has joined in the celebrations of Sri Lankan New Year by honouring a decade of volunteer work by Sikh by the Sikh community. Sikh Volunteers Australia have marked 10 years helping Australians in need during natural disasters, delivering food and support to those in crisis. Anthony Albanese visited Casey on Sunday to celebrate Sikh Valsa alongside Bruce MP Julian Hill. Mr. Albanese donned a turban to mark the occasion of the Sikh volunteers celebrating the milestone service to the community. They do extraordinary work. Now, I know that a lot of people have been ridiculing Anthony Albanese for donning the turban. Didn't that used to be cultural appropriation? Though Peter Dutton and his shadow multicultural affairs minister Jason Wood on their trip to India last year donned turbans, and Peter Dutton told the Indians, bragged how many he let into Australia when he was Home Affairs Minister, when Tony Abbott went to India. He also dressed up in turbans. So it's not just these leftist leaders like Justin Trudeau and Anthony Albanese dressing up. It's also conservatives, Peter Dutton and Tony Abbott. Now, next weekend, it is Thai New Year, and I wonder if Anthony Albanese is going to visit the local Thai massage place in his electorate there. Obviously, Thai massages have been in the news this past week with the Bruce Lehrmann defamation trial against Network 10 and Lisa Wilkinson taking a massive detour with former 7 News Spotlight producer Taylor Orbeck. Now, Spotlight last year had 2 episodes telling Bruce Lehrmann's version of that night in March 2019 inside Parliament House with him and Brittany Higgins. And he had a 2,000-page affidavit with the federal court. Federal Court Justice Michael Lee was supposed to have ruled last Thursday, but instead he allowed Taylor Orbeck to be cross-examined by Bruce's lawyers and by Network 10 lawyers. So the spotlight has been turned on 7 News Spotlight. Now, this is why now Taylor Orbeck, he was with Sky News earlier this year, but his employment there suddenly abruptly ended. And I think he's decided that he's never going to work in journalism again because, well, he's accused his former employer. Well, he's admitted that he paid $10,000 on the 7 Network corporate credit card for Sensei Thai massage. Now, people are asking what type of Thai massage costs $10,000. Well, one that the hands of the masseur go quite south of the body in the front region. And the next day, because he left a paper digital trail, he offered to resign because he purchased on the corporate credit card something that had nothing to do with work. And so apparently when Bruce Lehrmann allegedly demanded payment in prostitutes and cocaine that was supplied with cash. Now, these are all allegations, but the reason why Network 10 wants Taylor Orbach is evidence to affidavit to be entered into, because it obviously besmirches Bruce Lehrmann's character, that look at all these vices that he is engaging with. That, of course, doesn't mean that he can't have been defamed by being accused of being a rapist. But Taylor Orbach, because he also included in his affidavit his psychologist notes, and he was consuming 20 standard drinks a day, 140 a week, was a functioning alcoholic. Now, I'm pretty loose and feel it after just 2 standard drinks. I don't know how these people manage to consume so many drinks on a daily basis. And what is it? Just because when I really drink heavily, which is very rarely now, it almost takes me a day to recover. So, and it was interesting, the other mainstream media outlets saying, "Oh, these are shocking revelations," and that 7 News Spotlight, the program has an old school culture that there couldn't be a cocaine use facilitated at any of our media organizations. No, our noses are squeaky clean. Even though we know that Sydney is the cocaine capital of Australia, the Lebanese gangs keep shooting each other in the streets of Sydney because, well, they want to supply the cocaine to Sydney's elites, which includes the media. So the thin white line is what you could call it there. So this has been going on now because Brittany Higgins made her allegation in February 2021. This is what Bruce Lehrmann's suing over, the project interview with Lisa Wilkinson. We saw with the Spotlight in 2023 did 2 full Spotlight episodes with Bruce Lehrmann. Now, 7 Spotlight has been in the gun amongst the left for since last year. They aired the Detransitionist special. It was the same journalist, Liam Bartlett, who did the Bruce Lehrmann interview. And they've also been in the gun for 7 because Kerry Stokes employed Ben Roberts-Smith and bankrolled his defamation case against the 9 newspapers and 60 Minutes. Because of the reports by Nick McKenzie and Chris Masters accusing Ben Roberts-Smith of war crimes. The federal court judge found that, well, he wasn't defamed. Now, Ben Roberts-Smith hasn't been found guilty, but according to the left, that's as good enough as a guilty verdict for them. So they've been, like I said, they've been in the gun for 7, and its owner, Kerry Stokes, over a number of issues. And certainly this is, and it's also been pointed out that aren't they about decriminalizing prostitution and drugs, yet it's outrageous if Bruce Lehrmann allegedly does it there. Now, moving on to our new Governor General. So Anthony Albanese last week, out of left field, pun intended, announced that Sam Mostyn would be Australia's next Governor General, replacing David Hurley. Now, she is not the first female Governor General. That was another Labor appointee under Kevin Rudd, Quinton Bryce. So now, Sam Mostyn, she is a climate change and gender equality advocate, and she was the first female AFL commissioner and helped set up the AFLW, which is so very popular in attendance at games and also ratings on TV. She also supported the Voice referendum campaign, and also wants to change the date of Australia Day, called it Invasion Day, and is also a Republican, even though she is now going to be King Charles's representative in Australia. Now, despite all this, she does have less of a conflict of interest than Quinton Bryce had, because she is Bill Shorten's son-in-law. So Bill Shorten is married to Quinton Bryce's daughter, Chloe Bryce, now Chloe Shorten. And Bill Shorten was a minister in the Rudd-Gillard governments, including when there was the hung parliament in 2010, where to swear in a government, the Governor General Quinton Bryce had to be satisfied that, well, in the end, that Julia Gillard could command a majority on the floor of the House of Representatives, and she was still the Governor General when Bill Shorten was the opposition leader. And now, she obviously the expectation of her is that she will be apolitical in this role. The role of the Governor General is pretty simple. As I said, Queen's representative, swear in the Prime Minister and the ministers, act on the advice of the Prime Minister about who's in the cabinet, when to call an election, and also to give royal assent to bills that have passed the Parliament. Governor General is not supposed to get involved in party political causes. And obviously, Sir John Kerr, the Governor General in 1975, who sacked Gough Whitlam and installed Malcolm Fraser as Prime Minister to pass supply, colluded with Malcolm Fraser, pass supply, and then call an election. He was seen as a Governor General who way overstepped the mark there. So she's wiped her LinkedIn and her Twitter X account, Sam Mostyn. I'm not particularly bothered that she'll be in Governor General, because it will stop her being a far left activist. It's like when Anthony Albanese appointed Kevin Rudd to be Australia's US ambassador, and meant he wasn't on Twitter X every day lobbying for a Murdoch Royal Commission. Dawn Browning says, Mostyn, nice Welsh surname, also the surname of Canada's Bernal Birth CEO, just saying. Now, on Saturday night, it broke that a third illegal boat had arrived in Australia from at the Kimberley region in northwestern Australia. So this is the third in 5 months, carrying 15 Chinese people. So this is obviously not the demographic that we expect to arrive on an illegal boat, though there's been a lot of Chinese that have been flooding across the US southern border. So are they genuine asylum seekers fleeing the Chinese Communist Party, or is there something else in play? We don't know. But certainly, this is the alarm bells are ringing loud at the fact that this could be the start of another illegal boat invasion. Obviously, over in the UK, the boats, well, they nearly arrive every day over in the UK. Under the last Labor government, Rudd-Gillard, we were getting an illegal boat a day to Australia. 50,000 illegals arrived in Australia during that time. 1,000 arrived at sea. So, and also the 149 criminals and national security risks who were released by the High Court decision last year, including the lead plaintiff in that case, that Rohingya Muslim who raped a 12-year-old boy. He was an illegal who came via boat, because the ones that are coming by a boat, i.e. a lot of them are the ones that couldn't get here legally by plane, and they wouldn't pass the background check. And don't forget that there could be more detainees who are released because there is a pending High Court case. It is known as ASF. I can't remember the exact name, but this is an Iranian refugee who claims that he will face persecution if he goes back to Iran because he's bisexual. Though Iran is a country that doesn't accept the return of people who don't want to go back. So, in the last week of Parliament, the Albanese government, Claire O'Neill, the Home Affairs Minister, Andrew Giles, the Immigration Minister, put forward an amendment which would impose a mandatory jail sentence of 1 to 5 years and a possible fine of $90,000 for non-citizens who refuse to cooperate with their forced removal from Australia, such as failing to attend an interview or providing certain documents, because this is what this Iranian is refusing to do. And if the High Court ruled that they all had to be released, then illegals could basically just not cooperate, and they'd get a golden ticket to roam amongst us. Brucey says Iran wouldn't jail him. They would just make him get a sex change. Well, if he committed sodomy, a homosexual sex with another man, he'd get the death penalty. He wouldn't. They don't offer the mercy, be put to death or be transgendered. That's not how it works there. So, in this legislation, it has the powers in it allow a Trump-style travel ban to be implemented. It's now been deferred to a Senate inquiry. So this legislation could affect applicants from Russia, Iran, Iraq, South Sudan, and other countries unnamed by the government that refuse to accept forcibly return of their nationals. Now, I don't think it was on anyone's bingo card that the Albanese government would try and pass legislation that would give themselves the power to implement a Trump-style travel ban from entire nations. But I ain't complaining. This is I would love this bill, and Australia has been able. It is able to have a discriminatory immigration policy. The White Australia policy, not that I'm advocating for it, but was totally legal under Australia's constitution because we have the race power, which a lot of activists want to get rid of, which allows the Commonwealth to make laws with regard to certain races which it deems necessary to do so. Now that is hardly exercised, that power, anymore, but it's in the Constitution. That's why the White Australia policy was constitutional. But obviously, we have, well, it's alarming that we're having this, it seems like the beginnings of an illegal invasion from the north. And it seems that the Albanese government don't really want to patrol this Kimberley region because it's under native title, and they don't believe that it's actually part of Australia. They believe that they deep down, they believe in Aboriginal sovereignty. And so they believe that it would be culturally insensitive to patrol this coastline because they believe it belongs to the Aboriginals, and the people smugglers probably know this. That's why they're dumping them all there. And there's also a lot of illegal fishermen that are allegedly in this area. They're stopping on islands. There's a whole lot activity going on there. Now, the Labor Party, Labor government, unlike their predecessor Labor government, Rudd Gillard, they have kept offshore processing. So all these illegals are being flown to Nauru. It's interesting that Nauru now recognizes the People's Republic of China. So I don't know if Nauru is going to take it on themselves to send these Chinese back to China. Paleoconservative Australian says here that why is blood and soil ethno-nationalism only okay for Aboriginals? Well, it's okay for every race except for white races. I mean, that is pretty clear. Now, moving on to back to Victorian news. Now, even though Dan Andrews is thankfully long gone from the Premier's office, his successor, Jacinta Allen, is fighting to keep documents from Labor's bungled hotel quarantine in 2020 secret under FOI. They said that they are arguing that this is their argument here, that it now argues it can no longer access certain documents or is not legally required to do so following Mr. Andrews' departure. And also, Jacinta Allen, she is moving to scrap the Public Records Advisory Council as part of a digital age overhaul. Politically sensitive material could be removed from archives without scrutiny if the Allen government proceeds with a plan to scrap a board that oversees Victoria's official records. And you know what else is going digital next month? Victoria's driver's licenses. So you can, if you want a digital driver's license, you can access it if you've still got it on your phone for some reason, the Services Victoria app. Remember that, the QR code check-in vaccine passport. So maybe they're wanting people to re-download it because you can ditch your wallet and just have everything on your phone. How convenient. And Jacinta Allen on her Facebook page thought it would be really funny to use McLovin from Superbad as the instead of the John or Jane Citizen as an example, have McLovin. Though doesn't she realize that McLovin's was a fake ID? So that's and now it has there's being so what the police will do if, like, you have a digital license and you pulled over, they apparently won't take your phone. They'll scan the QR code to check your license details. But I've seen a lot of people in the comments say, no thanks, I'll be keeping my plastic driver's license. Is it a coincidence that this is being rolled out a week after digital ID passed the Senate? Just asking questions. Though New South Wales, they have had a digital driver's license since, before COVID. Victor Dominello, Gladys Berejiklian's customer service minister, rolled that out in the Service New South Wales app. That's why they were the first state to have the QR code vaccine in on the New South on their government app, and eventually why it came here in Victoria as well. Nobody touches my phone, Brucey Kivett said. Auditing Australia is in the chat. Great to see you. I hope that you're doing much better than, obviously, it was. I covered the vicious, violent assault you were subjected to by those trans Tifa terrorists. So when you have your phone stolen by nuffs and the police don't care, watch the fraud go through the roof. That's also a very important point, that the government claims that your identity is secure, though your identity is on this single device which can be stolen, hacked, because the government there's more there's more hack attacks against the government than private enterprises. I mean, Katie Gallagher, she released another on her. I haven't got the footage, but another digital ID propaganda video from an ABC News breakfast interview. Pico Simmons says Berejiklian is still the worst premier we've ever had. Mins is pretty close though. Cringe Mins. I mean, he would do something like the McLovin digital driver's license. Now, let's move on to the absolutely horrific IDF airstrike that killed 7 World Central Kitchen humanitarian aid workers in Gaza last week. So this included 1 Australian, Zomi Francom, and also 3 former British military personnel. Now, the IDF said that this was a tragic mistake. There was a miscommunication with between the chain of command, and we will investigate. But these things happen, sometimes happen because we are in a state of war. And now Israel has produced an interim report, and the Zionists have said, see, Israel is they've done a speedy interim report. Well, that's because Australia, the UK, and the US put pressure on the Israeli government. Like, it's one thing to have Palestinian civilians, kill them in a whole bunch of collateral damage when you're trying to hunt down Hamas terrorists, but it's another thing to kill humanitarian aid workers who are citizens of your allies. So this is why the IDF interim probe has been speedy, and they've dismissed 2 IDF personnel from their posts. We don't know if they're sacked from the IDF, and 3 have been reprimanded. Now, we keep hearing that this was a tragic mistake now, but we're hearing that this happened because the convoy, there was 3 of these World Central Kitchen aid convoys. They had the logo plastered on both sides of the vehicle and on the roof. Now, because it was a night, they couldn't see the logo, but apparently they could conclude that one of the people in the car was armed and that they must be Hamas, and so just press the button, which I wouldn't call it murder. I would say that it's completely reckless. The guy with a gun will just, and it was 3 strikes on each of the cars. So I think there's one guy with a gun. We're not sure, but we'll just bomb it anyway. And this seems to be the attitude of the IDF, the culture that is kept in. Even if we kill just 1 suspected Hamas terrorist, because they hide behind civilian infrastructure and aid workers, then as long as we get them, because then it's just a tragic accident, the collateral damage. And the Liberal opposition here in Australia, and also Zio Sky News, they say, yes, this was a tragedy that shouldn't have happened. However, Hamas, they started all this with their terrorist attack on southern Israel, slaughtering 1,200 Jews, the worst attack on Jews since the Holocaust, and they wouldn't have been killed if Hamas just surrendered and released the hostages. So basically, we should just forgive and forget. And just like the United States did with the attack on its USS Liberty during the Six-Day War in 1967. So even though the USS Liberty had an American flag on it, Israel, in a mistake, thought it was an Egyptian ship and attacked it. 34 US servicemen were killed, 171 wounded, but it was just an accident, according to both Israel and the United States. And so forgive and forget. And remember, Ben Shapiro said, I don't know why you're so when he was addressing the gropers, I don't know why you're so obsessed with something that happened 52 years ago. Basically, get over it. But, and, you know, the Israel and United States governments, they concluded that it was just Israel seems to make a lot of these accidents in conflict. So though the USS Liberty veterans, they disagree that it was just a accident. And the thing is, it's always whataboutism, and that, oh, this is what Hamas are known for. It's like that. They want the leeway to make a tragic mistake like this in the future. And Benjamin Netanyahu, he has opened up more aid because of the international pressure. We've also had, this is what Nigel Farage said about the 3 British servicemen who were killed providing humanitarian aid in Gaza, because it is 6 months since the Hamas attack. This is what he put out on his Instagram.
So horrible to see 3 British aid workers killed in Gaza this week, and now big demands for us to stop giving weapons to Israel. Do you know, folks, in every war, there are lots of people killed by so-called friendly fire. We've had it ourselves when we fought alongside the Americans. Israel is fighting for its very survival as a nation. You know, what happened on October the 7th is going to happen again and again unless the Hamas terrorists are beaten. I know what I'm saying to you is very much a minority voice at the moment. Israel being painted out at all levels to be evil, to be bad. But remember what they're up against. They're up against the Iranian-backed terrorists, and they're fighting for their very survival. I don't think we should boycott weapons to Israel.
And Tommy Robinson, this was his tweet about the 3 British ex-military aid workers killed. British people doing aid work in Gaza are cucks, mate. And then this account replied, so it's okay for British Army veterans to be killed if it's by Israel for attempting to feed starving people. You're the biggest cuck, dismissing the deaths of your own countrymen at the hands of a foreign rogue state. Some patriot you are. And he replies, it was the same for the aid workers helping in Syria. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Now, I can see that point of view. And Gaza at the moment, it's basically a welfare state. And these people, they won't help their own situation because they do support Hamas. 70% believe that the Hamas attack on southern Israel was justified. I mean, majority of them support the destruction of Israel. But again, Hamas is a terrorist organization. They are barbarians and savages. So Israel, to have them as the moral bar, as long as we're just above, we're above them, then we shouldn't be held accountable for anything. There's a lot of Zionists who are saying, oh, Israel's held to a higher standard. Yes, because it's a liberal democracy, rightly are held to a higher standard. I saw Malcolm Weikheimer say, oh, what about the 39 Afghan civilians who the Australian SAS allegedly murdered? So Malcolm Weikheimer, to defend Israel's recklessness, is digging up what Australian soldiers have allegedly done in Afghanistan, allegedly murdering civilians. Well, I would say to that, we shouldn't have been in Afghanistan to begin with. I mean, 20 years. We succeeded in getting rid of the Taliban to replace them with the Taliban, and this is the folly of the Zionists and Benjamin Netanyahu saying that we need to just hold the line until Hamas is defeated, and so Israel can never be threatened again. That it'd be it'd be lovely if Hamas would disappear tomorrow, but it's not going to happen. We live in the real world, and this is what my fellow libertarian foreign policy commentators point out, such as a host of anti-war radio, Scott Horton. And you're not an apologist for Hamas or the Taliban or the Ayatollah if you just describe what your actions are going to cause a reaction. Say if by some miracle the IDF does obliterate Hamas, obviously there's going to be more civilian casualties. The Palestinians in Gaza, are they going to thank the IDF soldiers? You liberated us from Hamas, we love you. No, there's going to be more resentment against Israel for killing so many of their fellow Palestinians. There could be an even more radical group than Hamas that emerges. I mean, there's another one that's in Gaza, Islamic Jihad. The name speaks for itself. And Netanyahu is doing this, just trying to defeat Hamas at all costs, because he's trying to save his legacy. It was the biggest intelligence failure in Israeli history since the Yom Kippur War. Happened on his watch. Israel was getting intelligence that Hamas were planning an assault on southern Israel, but just scoffed. Oh no, they wouldn't be capable of that. And those, obviously, it turns out that those attendees at that music festival in the desert, they were sitting ducks. There's mass protests in Israel now. There's people camping outside the Knesset, the Israeli parliament, demanding that a deal be done to get the hostages back, because Hamas has huge conditions for releasing the hostages. That is the complete withdrawal of the IDF from Gaza, and those displaced Palestinian Gazans allowed to return to their homes, basically a permanent ceasefire, while Israel only wants a temporary ceasefire. The political process is like, shouldn't it be about getting your citizens back at any cost? I mean, they got a whole bunch of the first round of the hostages back with a temporary ceasefire, releasing more Palestinian criminals and terrorists. Obviously, Hamas's conditions are going to be quite high, and I'm sort of thinking to myself, like, get the hostages back and do a deal. This seems to what your people want, but you can always break the ceasefire yourself. I mean, Hamas breaks the ceasefire, so just withdraw for now. But the thing is, to make sure that October 7 happen again, don't ignore intelligence. And Benjamin Netanyahu, maybe he thought that he would get George W. Bush levels of support after 9/11, even though it was his administration's intelligence failures that led to the 9/11 attack. But again, the goal of getting rid of the Taliban, which was harboring bin Laden, as I just said, the Taliban has returned, wasted 20 years of bloodshed, and Osama bin Laden was hiding in Pakistan, and also Hamas, they're mainly hiding in Qatar. Yet there's no sanctions against Qatar. There was just the AFC Asian World Cup there. I mean, there's no sanctions or anything against Qatar, just like there wasn't against Pakistan for harboring bin Laden. So again, it's there seems to be a pass for other nations who are just shitting all over. Well, Qatar's shitting all over not just Israel, but also all the countries that do support Israel as well. Same way that Pakistan was shitting all over the US by harboring bin Laden and all of the Western nations as well. Ording Australia says Osama bin Laden wasn't hiding; he was treated like royalty. It was a pretty sophisticated compound there. You remember. A paleoconservative Australian, most Israelis actually want the IDF to go harder. That's not what the protesters on the streets of Israel. Like, this should be about there's all these obviously commentators in the West, such as Douglas Murray, who is a Brit. Who seems to have a huge opinion about what Israel and the IDF need to do, and he says, "Oh, I'm glad that some of the hostages got out, but there's these Palestinian criminals and terrorists who are being released." How about, because Israel is a liberal democracy, being anti-Benjamin Netanyahu, anti-Israel government is not anti-Zionist, anti-Semitic. That's the point of liberal democracy. Being critical of the Biden administration doesn't mean you're anti-American. And in terms of, I know that there's these retards protesting every week in Melbourne and London and Western cities around the world who are pro-Hamas or Hamas apologists, or just gloss over Hamas's human rights abusers and murderers. But reasonable people, like, it's a given that they're a murdering terrorist, barbarians, savages. So, but if we're to support Israel, then they should be held to a high standard. Of course, my position is we should remain neutral. The fact that we're funding both sides, that we're funding the IDF while also funding the Palestinian Gazan welfare state, which it seems to be not much production is going on. But there seem to be some people upset with Biden putting conditions on US support. How dare it not be unconditional military aid? How dare you put conditions on our aid? What do you because there's obviously so many Zionists who just say, write a blank check to our beloved dear friend Israel. Remember Nikki Haley with regard to Hamas, finish them. Brucey Kivett says, I can't believe Tim hates Jews like this. What the heck? Well, that is what a lot of the Zionists try to conflate criticism of Israel holding Israel to the highest standard that it should be as a liberal democracy, as secretly wanting to undermine Israel and secretly harboring anti-Semitic views. I just got in before I went to air. There was a news alert from Sky News, Sherry Markson, who says that the fact that Penny Wong, she has appointed to oversee the Israeli investigation a special advisor, Air Chief Marshal Mark Briskin, that this could threaten bilateral relations. Sherry Markson on her Sky News, Zion News show last week also said, what about Hamas? What about the Australian who was killed by Hamas in October 7? Again, no reasonable person doesn't disagrees that Hamas are barbarians, savages, murderous, terrorists. And it is not an attack on Jewish people to demand there be proper accountability on the reckless killing of an Australian. But then again, I can't understand why you would volunteer to help people who won't really help themselves. But it's this is my whole issue with the latest in the Israel Palestine conflict is that the cheerleaders on both sides are just so extreme and will justify any mass killing on their respective side. Though I have noticed that Douglas Murray has been quite silent this week, released his fentanyl documentary about fentanyl use in the United States. That came out of left field. He said nothing about the killing of the aid workers. Dawning says, snoozing, blasted daylight savings, Tim. Your body clock's still messed up, Dawn, because of daylight savings. Now let's go back to Australian news, and very disgusting and disturbing news coming from Renmark High School in rural South Australia. This is a girls' high school. Year 9 girls at Renmark High School say they were given presentation on respectful relationships that included references to bestiality. And so this took place, this presentation, without parental notification or permission, and the students were left unsupervised by the teachers for the duration of the presentation. So 2 staff from the Headspace Centre introduced a third-party presenter who facilitated an hour-long presentation focused on relationships. So going down here, that 14-year-old Amelia Wenberg said the presenter was graphic when referencing their own sexual preferences and spoke in sexually explicit terms about growing up and being confused about whether they idolize people as the same gender or want to be intimate with them. Students say they were given an explanation of the initialism LGBTQIA+, with each word and its meaning displayed on the screen. There was a slide for what the plus means, and they just started randomly saying words that no one knew, like bestiality. The student said bestiality was explained in detail, and the presenter seemed to imply it was something practiced by people who identified as LGBTQI+. They said the queer community just accepts all of it, even though it isn't illegal. As the talk went on, multiple girls, including Courtney, began to feel uncomfortable and asked to leave the classroom to go to the bathroom. We're all just sitting there like, what the hell? What are we doing? Why are we learning about animals having sex with humans? It was really disgusting, really uncomfortable. And so the school said that normal procedures were not followed. And Headspace, they are, it says here, offering, well, the school is offering counseling on the trauma that they inflicted. And Headspace, who, well, it seems that 2 of their presenters facilitated this. Well, you'd call them a head case. How come we're not allowed to know the identity of this third-party presenter? They should be named and shamed, and also get their hard drive check if they think that bestiality is what is part of the plus. And as this ABC article says, that, well, as you know, I don't like the name queer community, but LGBTQI educators condemn slur because they believe that this presenter has slurred them, that implying that bestiality is inclusive in the acronym. Now Headspace is a youth mental health charity, which, well, they're full on board with the rainbow alphabet agenda. So is Beyond Blue, the depression organization. And now you remember it was over 10 years ago in 2012, Cory Bernardi, when he was a Liberal senator in a speech against same-sex marriage in the Senate, said there are even creepy people out there who say that humans can have consensual human relations with animals? Will that be a future step? And Corey Bernardi posted a screenshot of the headline and said, "You are warned, their agenda has no limits." Now, obviously, this is, well, we know that there are these activists who, certain type of activists who will not stop. Well, the plus, it's to include anything that's apparently not on the LGBTQI plus. Apparently, April 6th was what was it? It was a asexual day. I can't remember the Greens MP Stephen Bates, member for Brisbane, who is homosexual, posted. Now, asexual people are people who don't have a sexuality, so like, you need awareness because you're not seeking intimacy. Now, going back to Corey Bernardi, when he made his speech, which Tony Abbott forced him to resign his shadow parliamentary secretary position, he said that it's left-wing people like Princeton professor Peter Singer, who's an Australian, who have said, why is there a taboo with zoophilia? And he actually went on the ABC's Q&A, and they allowed a question to be asked about it. And Peter Singer actually provided a gross example that there's nothing wrong with a dog nibbling on a human penis. Absolutely disgusting. And the audience thought it was funny. And Peter Singer co-wrote the Greens manifesto back in the 90s with Bob Brown. There is also in favor of infanticide as well. So Corey Bernardi is not he wasn't making things up out of thin air. There are these creepy people who do believe that humans can have consensual sex with animals. I mean, sadly, it is a disgusting thing that occurs, and it's rightfully illegal. But certainly, that is not a respectful relationship. Wasn't that what it was supposed to be about? That education. Now, let's go on to nationalist news. And now, did anyone watch it was about 4 or 5 hours, the debate between Joel Davis and Drew Pavlou, moderated by Elijah Schaefer, is diversity a strength, on his slightly offensive Rumble channel. Now, we all thought watching it that it would be about diverse racial, cultural diversity within white nations, though Drew Pavlou, he defined diversity as every human is diverse as an individual, which he sort of moved the goalpost. And like, I do give Drew credit for entering into the debate. For those who don't know how Drew Pavlou became really well known, is because he was suspended by the University of Queensland, I think it was. Let me just get this right so I can name and shame the university. Yes, it was the University of Queensland. So he got beaten up by some CCP thugs for opposing the university's Confucius Center, and he has since then been a vocal voice against China's Communist Party influence into Australia, which wants to undermine Australia and divide us. They try to use the identity politics, white guilt, to see division within Australia, while the Chinese Communist Party, they want, China to be a single homogenous Han Chinese entity, which is why they want to basically crush the Uyghur Muslim culture and also the Tibetan culture as well. I did admire him in the beginning because it was important at the time for a leftist to take a stance against the Chinese Communist Party, because there was too many leftists who were being apologists for it, because, well, they're closet communists and they believed in that Australia's colonial guilt and our participation in wars meant we couldn't criticize the Chinese Communist Party. And he did win the Unshackled's Culture Warrior of the Year award 1 year. But ever since the start of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, he has become what I term a liberal Democrat internationalist, which is a gateway to neoconservatism. And so Drew Pavlou has basically he now supports the US interfering in all parts of the world. And although we're supposed to live in a liberal democracy, which does have freedom and free speech, but we don't here. And obviously, part of a liberal democratic values is tolerating extreme views as well. Though I don't know if I didn't view the full bait. I'm not sure. I know that Drew Pavlou he's more free speech than other leftists. But like I said, my main criticism of him these days is that he doesn't understand that other countries in the world, they don't want our values imposed on them. Like going to Afghanistan, for example. I can't understand why the Afghani people want the Taliban. Well, they were happy to have them back. But what goes on in their nation is their business. I mean, we tried for our government's tried for 20 years to make Afghanistan in a liberal democracy. And it didn't happen. Remember the Vietnam War, trying to stop Vietnam becoming communist. Well, it did become communist. So, and Drew, his argument against Joel's advocacy for repatriation and deportations is that it automatically meant genocide, killing, mass murder. Well, that is what occurred when the Germans were expelled. Well, they were expelled from their own lands after the Second World War. It tends to happen, these mass murders in the deportations, when people are being expelled from their own land by a conqueror. And this is not what Joel was referring to when it comes to deportation and repatriation. Drew's argument, and he was very hyperbolic that how Joel wanted to achieve is the only way to be able to achieve to have white homelands again. It'd have to be violent. And he also has said that white nationalists are no different from ISIS, wanting to control every aspect of society, just like ISIS don't want singing, dancing, music. And obviously, Drew was trying to sort of he was trying to say that, oh look, they want to impose certain morality rules. Though the way that Drew said it, it was like that Joel was against music, singing and dancing. Which, well, have you heard National Socialist Network? They sing all the time. And I noticed that Elijah Schaffer, because it got really heated, which was good. Drew said that Joel was evil, so which is pretty. I mean, it reminded me of the good old days of the Springer program, Geraldo Rivera. I want to get back to that. A fully frank and fearless exchange of ideas when people are when both sides are having a go at each other. Those were the good old days of open debate, not what we have now. Elijah Schaffer tried to bring in comic relief into it, try to bring it back down so it wouldn't get too intense. But yes, we want more of that, and so I give Drew Pavlou credit where it's due, that he's willing to debate his adversities. I mean, he's debated CCP simps in the past as well. I might even try and get him to come on Wilms front, and I can debate him on that he's become a neoconservative. But it's continued on the Twitter X back and forth between Drew, Joel, and the other National Socialist, white nationalist, and the Groypers. Though I'm not sure if this is a side effect of the aftermath of the Drew Joel debate, but Thomas Sewell has had his X account suspended, and he paid for X Premium. He said, Twitter has permanently disabled my account as of today, 8th of April 2024. I've had far too much hot-blooded fun on social media recently, as I am more productive in isolation. I am what I am, and take this as a blessing regardless. You will find me by my work, blood and honor. And now Tom was getting pretty active on Twitter X. He hosts those Twitter spaces, so they obviously are gone now. We still don't know the outcome of Victoria Police, the DPP's appeal of Jacob Persianet and Thomas Sewell's sentence for the violent disorder charge, where Thomas Sewell got 1 month prison time served, and Jacob Persianet got a community corrections order. Did you know that there's also yet another right-wing extremist movement inquiry by the Senate Legal and Constitutional Affairs Committee? So there was one in the previous parliament that was by the Joint Committee on Security and Intelligence, which actually didn't issue a final report. They ran out of time. So the terms of reference are right-wing extremist movements in Australia, with particular reference to the nature and extent of movements and persons holding extremist right-wing views in Australia, with particular focus on the threat posed by extremist movements, including right-wing extremism, the motivations, objectives, and capability for violence of extremist groups and individuals holding such views, links between individuals and groups with international movements, how individuals progress to committing acts of violence, and the role of the online environment in promoting extremism. The terms and operation of the counter-terrorism legislation amendment prohibited hate symbols and other measures bill. Measures to counter violent extremism in Australia, with a particular focus on young people and any other related matter. So the counter-terrorism legislation amendment, that was the Nazi swastika and salute national ban, which even covers the internet. And while we're here, let's have a look at the committee members who are hearing this inquiry. Where are we? It's not very user friendly. So to find out who are the members of this committee here. Yeah, where can I find out who are the? Oh, here we go. Legislation membership. I think this is it here. So the chair is actually a Labor Senator, Nita Green from Queensland. The deputy chair is Liberal Senator from Queensland, Paul Scar. Alex Antic from the Australian Labor Party, Varun Ghosh. There's no photo, but that sounds like a non-white name. Labor Senator from Tasmania, Helen Polly. Now the Greens have a substitute member for this, and the regular member is David Shoebridge. But hearing of this for this inquiry is Maureen Faruqi, of course. So we also had the Victorian far-right extremism inquiry in, I think it was 2022. When is going to be the inquiry into far left-wing extremism, Antifa, Trans Tifa, climate change, terrorism, vegan terrorism? When are we going to get that? I mean, we just seem to be saying having constant cycles of far-right extremism inquiries. Okay, that's the end of the Australian news. Now let's go over to the UK. What should I cover first? Let's cover let's change the pace first. Let's cover the salacious British news. There's been yet another sex scandal under this Conservative government. Obviously, this all started with the former Health Secretary Matt Hancock getting very handy with his cock with his staffer during the COVID restrictions. Then we had Neil Parish, who was looking at porn in the House of Commons. He said he was just looking up tractors, and then porn showed up. Then there was Chris Pincher, who was pinching men on the bottom. That was the final sex scandal before Boris Johnson was taken down. The most recent one, they all have doozy names. There was Peter Bone, who is now resigned from Parliament, who exposed his boner to a member of his staff when they stayed in the Madrid hotel room. Now, the latest sex scandal involves a Conservative gay MP, William Ragg, who has, well, allowed himself to be to fall into a Grindr honeypot, a blackmail trap, and has dumped his colleagues into it as well by giving the blackmailer his phone numbers. I'll allow Katie Hopkins to explain it in 60 seconds.
On William Ragg MP. William Ragg met someone on the dating app called Grindr and sent pictures of his cock. I think that will have been very disappointing, something like a small thumb in a roll neck. Meanwhile, the guy on Grindr decides to blackmail the MP, and rather than fess up and come clean and say, oh, this hasn't gone well, he decides instead to give the blackmailer the personal and private contact details of 14 other senior members of Parliament, 2 of whom decide to follow the example of William Ragg and also send pictures of their terribly small cocks as well. The guy now has quite a collection. In coming out in his defence, his lawyers have said he suffers from mental health issues, which is playing the Hugh Edwards card. And meanwhile, Jeremy Hunt has said that this very glorious MP, in sending pictures of his cock and doing what the blackmailer wanted and giving up colleagues and friends, has been both courageous and brave. Splendid.
You couldn't make it up. I mean, seriously. And to just add the cherry on top, the Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, calls him courageous for giving, because he didn't want his cock exposed, giving the phone numbers of 14 of his colleagues, MPs and staffers. And then it shows how deviant and degenerate UK politics is, the fact that out of the 14, there was just 2 who sent their cock as well. And this again is, I'm not sure if many of you were a fan of the Little Britain sketch comedy show, which is now been erased from the internet because of blackface, even though it was funny. There was this conservative politician who was always caught up in gay sex scandals and always would come up with a ridiculous apology. And Lawrence Fox posted what his name was Sir Norman Fry MP. What Norman Fry MP would say in this situation. While feeding our dog, I accidentally dropped my phone and licked the screen, which caused a photo of my genitals along with the contact details of 12 parliamentary colleagues to be sent to a gentleman I had never met. As far as I'm concerned, that is the end of the matter. Thank you. And now there's going to be some inquiry into it. We don't know the motivations of this blackmailer. I don't think that it was James O'Keefe, because he tends to just use Grindr to entrap gay members of the Biden administration to spill national security secrets to him. He's done that in his because he's now got his own, oh my god, O'Keefe Media Group. James O'Keefe, he just puts on these glasses and he's able to fool these high level Biden gay employees, and they just spill the beans. I'm thinking that gay politicians and government employees should be banned from using Grindr. I mean, government employees and politicians are banned from using TikTok because of national security concerns. Shouldn't it be the same with Grindr? The lavender scare in the 1950s, where the US government purged homosexuals from employment in the US government because they were worried that they could be blackmailed by the communists. Now, I'm not saying that there should be a purge like that. I'm just saying that it seems to me that homosexual who are employed by the government should not be on this app. It should be disabled on government devices, should be terms of their employment. If they want to meet somebody of the same sex, well, they can do it the old-fashioned way. Go to a gay club or gay bar. I mean, Grindr's only been around for 20 years, but again, it seems that these we've seen that these degenerates get caught out because, well, of their own deviancy. I mean, there was the Democrat gay Senate staffer who filmed himself having sex in the Senate, posted it on a alt Twitter X account. It should be the golden rule of politics. Don't take photos of your penis and send it to your enemies. Okay, now let's move on to the absolute farce of Humza Yousaf's hate speech laws, where you can go to jail for up to 7 years. Now, the strategy right from the beginning from opponents has just been to flood the system with complaints, to overwhelm it so it collapses. And so it got 4,000 reports in the first 2 days of it's coming in on April Fool's Day. They're still coming in at a rate of 60 complaints per hour, so a complaint per minute. Now, J.K. Rowling, she deliberately misgendered trans women on Twitter X and said, come and arrest me. The Scottish police didn't. Now, she is not the most complained under the new hate crime bill. It's Humza Yousaf's infamous anti-white speech, where he decries that there's so many white people in positions of power in a majority white nation such as Scotland. Now, because there was some racist vandalism against him, he claimed that this is why the laws are justified. And so it seems that he's sticking by it, but the Scottish police, they said in the lead up that this will take us away from frontline police work, actually catching violent criminals, rapists, murderers, pedophiles. So it has become the like an even greater farce than all of us were saying. But you have to give credit to the many people on the right who they mainly reported Humza Yousaf as speech. So that's one way you make the system collapse, through this mischievous mischievous way. It's very clever. Now, You've all seen Hamza Yousaf's anti-white speech. I'm not going to play it, but what I am going to play is this deep fake AI parody, because, you know, apparently AI deep fakes, they're going to destroy civilization as we know it. I think that's just a fear mongering. I think that it's being used for its proper purpose, which is satire. So this is the AI version of Hamza Yousaf's speech.
Let me tell you about the color white. The snowman, white. Santa Claus's beard, white. Every petal on a daisy, white. The milk from cows, white. My favorite wine, white. Clouds in the sky, white. The white cliffs of Dover, white. Michelangelo's statue of David, white. Every time I ejaculate, white. The big house the president lives in, white. The paper I use to script my hate speech, white. Not just my pubes, but my arse hair, white. The toothpaste I use, white. The poet Robert Burns and Braveheart himself, William Wallace, white. Almost every Scot that has contributed to Scotland's rich history, heritage, and culture, white. The Scottish voters I am trying to shame, white. 95% of the Scottish population report their ethnicity as white. That is not good enough.
There's too much white things in society in total, it seems, according to that deepfake AI version. Now, we on more sad news, there has been another death because of British diversity, putting the die in diversity. There is a suspect, Habibur Massam, 25, from Oldham, who's wanted by police after stabbing a 27-year-old mother on the streets of Bradford, which is a huge Muslim. There's many Muslims in that town there. So the woman was stabbed 4 to 5 times in the neck while shopping with a friend. Munson is described as an Asian man of slim build. I hate it how they describe Indians or Pakistanis or Bangladeshis or Sri Lankans as Asian. We call them Indians in Australia. So this is a mother who should still be alive. This is absolutely horrific, and this comes after that mother was disfigured by Abdul Azidi with the acid in Clapham, which apparently he suicided in the Thames. The police have found his body. Well, they found a whole bunch of other bodies there. Katie Hopkins said the Thames has a bigger body count than the Clintons. So this is, again, just absolutely horrific. And we hope that he is apprehended. Again, this is Britain's the country that has the CCTV everywhere. We have CCTV everywhere, but we can't find these sex creeps. I mean, like supposedly these are supposed to make us safer, yet we've got all of these sex creeps, killers, maimers at large. Now, going over to the United States, where apparently it's several states have declared a state of emergency because of the solar eclipse. There was that earthquake in New York last week that followed that absolutely horrific bridge collapse in Baltimore, where it looks like the ship lost power before it completely demolished the bridge. So a lot of weird things have been going on over in the United States. It's a presidential election year, as we're all aware. Trump versus Biden rematch, though Apparently, because I reported last week about the trad thoughts going automatically taking Hillary Crowder's side based upon that ring footage of Stephen and Hillary Crowder arguing, and also, well, taking what taking from what's available from the release talk documents what they wanted to take. Although Stephen Crowder, that was so last week. The trad thoughts have been going after Charlie Kirk of Turning Point USA this week because he spoke about how birth control affects women's health without their permission, because it seemed that Charlie Kirk needed to get the Trad Thoughts Commission to have a critique about birth control.
A lot of them are on birth control too, and birth control like really screws up female brains, by the way. Every single one of you need to make sure that your loved ones are not on birth control. It increases depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation. Birth control is the #1 most prescribed medication for young ladies under the age of 25. They will give young ladies birth control for pimples, for acne, to control their moods, their period. It is awful, it's terrible, and it creates very angry and bitter young ladies and young women. That bitterness then manifests into a political party that is the bitter party. I mean, the Democrat Party is all about bring us your bitterness and, we'll give you free stuff. It's like we'll trade you, bitterness for stuff, essentially. That's like the Democrat Party.
Now, it is becoming a discussion even in left-wing publications. There was an article in The Age about the adverse health effects that the birth control pill has on women. But when Charlie Kirk says it, then apparently that's bad. Having a frank conversation, because according to Lauren Southern, Ashley St. Clair, because it was clipped by Gavin Newsom to say, look, the Republicans are coming after birth control. According to, Ashley St. Clair, she's been the leader of this trad thought group. They've mainly been going after Pearl Davis because she doesn't toe the trad thought feminist line. Ashley Sinclair said, Biden's going to win because you're speaking about birth control, and they've made a video saying the Republican Party is anti-women and recommended people lead Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, which by sharing that, she's basically saying you need to play by the opponent's rules, which is not how Trump won in 2016. He reversed the rules for radicals. Trump's rules were originally Roy Cohen's rules. So you attack, hit the enemy 10 times harder. Roy Cohen, he also mentored Roger Stone, Roger Ailes of Fox News, and Rupert Murdoch. He was one homosexual that the US government failed to purge in the 1950s, though he was a tough son of a bitch, as one of his clients said about him. Died very painful AIDS death in the 80s, but his legacy lives on. And I remember Hillary Clinton, she mentioned one of Milo's Breitbart articles in 2016 about birth control makes women unattractive and crazy. And so Milo wrote about this in 2016, and Trump won because Trump still won, even though this stuff was being talked about in 2016. So it's almost like these trad thoughts want Biden to win. So they see the Republicans are anti-women. That's why they lost. And Paleoconservative Australian says Ben Shapiro dumped Charlie when he posted mildly pro-white tweets, and also made legitimate criticism of Jewish people funding anti-white causes that was leading to less support for Israel. Now, Ben Shapiro's new best friend is Dave Rubin over at the Blaze TV, which it's an odd partnership because, Michael Knowles, who's still with the Daily Wire. He could never make it out on his own. Said that anyone involved in surrogacy, which cuts out the mother, should be in prison. So is he saying that Ben Shapiro's new best friend Dave Rubin, who he and his husband had 2 children through a surrogate mother, should be in jail? Because you remember last week Ben Shapiro had a cry on Dave Rubin's report. He used to, back in the Grope Award days, go to Charlie Kirk to cry, but Charlie Kirk's come around, and now, in a sign that Ben Shapiro is losing it, he's losing. Well, the Conservative Inc., they're losing their control over conservative nationalist thought, and they don't like that there are things being asked about, discussed. And so Ben Shapiro, he released this critique of people who discuss things, discuss certain coincidences, and well, it's very hard to say the actual answer because that'll get you cancelled, but you can put things out and allow people to dig deeper themselves by, say, just asking questions. But curiosity, trying to expand your knowledge, and is apparently corrupt, childish, and displays your ignorance, according to Ben Shapiro.
You blame society, you don't have an answer. So it must be a conspiracy. There must be some sort, and you're just asking questions. You don't know, right? This is the game that is played by so many corrupt commentators, just asking questions. I don't have to show you evidence that something terrible is happening. I don't have to actually demonstrate how the thing is happening. I don't have to tell you who the problem is. Wink, wink. But I can just tell you right now that there is a problem. But even, and if I'm asked about it, hey, I'm just asking questions. Now, let me tell you something about just asking questions for a second. Just asking questions is a game for children. My son is 7. He can just ask questions. My daughter is 10. She can just ask questions. If you are 50 and you are just asking questions, I don't think you're just asking questions. I think that your level of curiosity is actually quite low. I think that you don't care enough to know or know enough to care. I think that the vast majority of people who are in the just asking questions business have an answer that they want to suggest, but they know there's no evidence for it, so instead they hide behind just asking questions. In other words, they're completely full of shit.
And now, Ben Shapiro, he was mainly referencing there he was too cowardly to actually name Tucker Carlson by name, because he mentions in the extended version, if you're a 50-year-old male, which Tucker Carlson is. Now, let's take the most prominent a current event that Tucker Carlson asked questions about. Who blew up the Nord Stream pipeline? Now, Tucker Carlson didn't know. And so Ben Shapiro is saying, oh, you don't have any evidence for it, but it's worth asking. Well, unless you believe that a pipeline is capable of blowing itself up, it was clearly blown up by somebody. And so it's worth asking the question, who blew up the Nord Stream pipeline? Tucker Carlson is an influential person. Putting the question out there, it eventually leads that there's more demand for answers. And we did get an answer from Pulitzer Prize winning investigative journalist Seymour Hersh, who revealed that under the cover of a NATO training exercises, explosives were put on the Nord Stream pipeline to blow it up. So by starting the questioning, we did get an answer. But apparently wondering, asking questions, that is bad now. You're not even allowed to wonder, have curiosity. Now, his ex-employee Candace Owen, which there is supposed to be a debate that's going to eventually happen between Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens on the definition of anti-Semitism. Candace Owens was attacked for this tweet. pornography is an intentional weapon of mass destruction. It was designed to weaken men with an understanding of their physiological responses. It was also designed to drive men further into perversion. Time to look into the history and profiteering of pornography. She's basically saying, I'm going to investigate who is behind pornography. And underneath that tweet, there's all of these people accusing her of anti-Semitism because, well, the people who are accusing her of anti-Semitism, they're actually admitting that it's mainly Jewish people who are behind the ownership and production of pornography. So they've actually answered the question that she's put out. I'm not sure if that's what Ben Shapiro is also critiquing there. Now, is Ben, is it does it hurt his feelings that his people are the main owners and producers of pornography? I thought facts don't care about your feelings. Like, I'm just stating a fact here. I'm not making a judgment on the Jewish people just by stating these facts that there are a lot of Jewish owners and producers of pornography. And but this is the thing about the current mentioning these sorts of things, that and why people they mention, when they say just asking questions, a lot of the time they are stating facts and they are not drawing the conclusion because, well, actually stating the fact is, now if you're I remember that you could be accused of anti-Semitism if you were a conservative, well, you're a nationalist, a news organization that reported on the Jewish tunnels in New York, even though the BBC reported on it. It's a fact. The fact that there were Jewish tunnels in New York under this Orthodox synagogue. But apparently, nationalist news, Groyper News reporting on it, that is anti-Semitic. It's about, and this is the whole thing with the Christ is King being anti-Semitic. It's not the statement itself, but who says it. So Nick Fuentes, when he says Christ is King, he's always going to be accused of it having an anti-Semitic meaning. Now, as I've previously said, if someone says Christ is King, you dirty Jews, clearly that has an anti-Semitic meaning to it. But this is the whole thing about, and this is why the anti-Semitic definition seems to be moving so quickly, just to cover statements of fact. That you can be accused because of who's saying these facts. You can be accused of anti-Semitism. And this is what Ben Shapiro is getting at as well, that just asking questions that, you're wanting to state facts in an anti-Semitic way. And also saying that is that just asking questions is for children. The reason children ask them is so they can learn. And I think it's important to ask questions about about historical effects. For example, there's in the post-COVID era, there is a lot more less trust in government narratives, particularly around the moon landing. And I noticed that the final lunar module, Apollo 16, leaving in 1972, the film of it, people are saying they left the cameraman behind. He's there 50 years later. And people have explained that there was no cameraman there. It was done remotely from Earth. People are asking, how come we can't come back to the moon? By asking these questions, we actually learn about more about the Apollo missions by just asking questions. All right, I've gone way over time. I don't have time for the rest of the news that I was going to cover, but I've covered the main topics. So thank you, everyone, once again for your company tonight, where it is here at the Unshackled. We ask the questions that and wonder things that apparently you're not supposed to ask questions, wonder about. If you want to support our work, you can take an Unshackled membership at theunshackled.net/membership. So I'll put that into the live chat. And there's also, you can support us via the Unshackled Substack by taking out a subscription there. That's also has our Unshackled's production archive as well. I'll put that that link into the live chat as well. And that's also how I email notifications for live shows with a Substack post and email. Now, the next reports from Tiger Mountain, it'll be a 3-part Richard Wollstonecroft has done with David Thrussell, who's a co-host of the No Goat Show, which is a cafe locked out production. Also with Michael Gray Griffiths, it's very popular. They did a live version on one of Michael Gray Griffiths' tours. So that is David Thrussell. He's also asked a lot of questions as well that you're not supposed to ask as well. So thank you so much for your company, everyone, tonight. I hoping to have a Wilms Front show for you very soon, but if there's not one this Sunday at 9 p.m. Melbourne time on the Wilms Front channels, then I'll see you all for Tim's News Explosion next Monday, 9 p.m. Melbourne time on the Wilms Front channels, same time. And also, don't forget to give this video a like, comment, thumbs up, because it all helps with the algorithm as well. Good night, everybody. Stay sane, stay safe, and stay asking questions. Good night.
Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News Explosion.